And we're back. This is episode 372 of the Colombia Calling podcast. We're on the line to Damon O'Neill, who's in Medellin at the moment, or should I say Medellin. Damon is a volunteer football coach. He works up there at the Ecoparque in Comuna 13, that's Comuna 13 in Medellin. He's originally from Essex, but I guess we can call him a Paisa now because he's been for like 2 years volunteering up there. So Damon, welcome on the Colombia Calling podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm pleased to be here.
Yeah, well, I'm glad. A smiling face across the country, over the mountains, the other side. So let's just start from the beginning. What took you to Medellin?
So I arrived in here as a backpacker, traveler type story, as I think many people did.
Yeah.
And I was traveling with a few friends in Central America with always the dream of reaching South America and traveling around. And we were doing a lot of volunteering on our journey. And so when we arrived in Medellin, we looked for volunteering opportunities again. And to be honest, I've never looked back. I fell in love with Medellin.
Mm-hmm.
We fell in love with going up to the Comuna and coaching football. There was the catch of the Comuna because we did the tour of Comuna 13 beforehand. And so then the kids took to us, the whole community took to us, to be honest, which was really good. And so we ended up going up to coach football 3-4 times a week. And then I've spent a bit of time away from there. But yeah, I came back to continue the projects.
So hang on. So I mean, basically, you left your heart there because to go away and you were drawn back. I mean, that's it, isn't it? So you had, I don't know, something. The children, the community, how they had taken you in. They'd made you one of your own, and you'd gone away, I assume, with the idea of just continuing backpacking with your friends. But that was it. I've got to go back to Medellin.
Yeah, it was that because we went home for Christmas. That was 2019, I think. And so we planned that before we met the kids. And what we did back in the UK was collect football kits and football boots and any type of equipment that coming from a football family and playing football my whole life, I had a bit of a network where people could donate. And so between us. And so we had 15 boxes that we were going to ship over to Colombia full of equipment, and we raised a bit of money to buy some new stuff. However, Colombian customs didn't like that, and so they never actually reached Comuna 13. But the plan was always to come back once we started that donation, and once we realized we loved it, and so we went to another couple of places in Colombia. But I think you're right in saying my heart was left here, and hence I'm back.
Well, hang on a second. So all these boxes are just, I don't know, I guess they've been distributed amongst the customs authorities there in Cartagena.
Yeah, well, I sort of hope they have been, because I would rather somebody be wearing all of that stuff and using it rather than it being burned, which they said it was going to happen. Yeah,
I've had my
but
run-ins.
it was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
There was some good quality gear there for sure.
You know what it is? Is it because people are bringing so many in? They figure you're going to sell it. That's the thing. I've had run-ins with the customs there in Cartagena, and the corruption is phenomenal. I was just shipping over my personal belongings. No value to anyone else, just to myself. And at one point they said, well, in order to get this through, you're going to have to ship it over to Panama and back again, although it was already in Cartagena. And it was a way of them getting more money out of me, and that was it. And if it stays longer, then they charge you longer in the warehouse. And then in order to get a meeting, I had to pay a facilitating fee of around 300,000 pesos and stuff. I mean, it was just God. So anyway, I reckon your stuff has been distributed perhaps for a fee around Cartagena somewhere because they were originals and stuff. But hang on, you are coaching football and you have a background in football, and I've done my research, and you've had trials at both West Ham and Tottenham. That means you're pretty good.
I won't go that far.
But what happened? Were you just not? You just couldn't make the final cut, or tell me it was cut short by injury?
Oh yeah, I was injured. I was the next Beckham, and I broke my leg. No, well, I mean, from Essex, I grew up around the corner to West Ham's training ground, and so played in East London and Essex, and so very much in the catchment area. And if you're half decent around where I'm from, where we were playing football, there's lots of kids who get picked up for trials here and there, and then get released and then get another team. So yeah, I mean, I'm half decent and played my whole life, and I've got some coaching badges from since I was like 18. So I've done a bit of coaching back in the UK and in the US, and yeah, but I don't play anything serious now. I've got a game tonight actually. I'm 5-a-side match, but that's all it is at the moment here. But yeah, it was good to try.
Yeah, well, that's a great deal of humility. I would be dining out on that if I'd actually had a trial anywhere. Now, you're a West Ham fan, and you used to have La Roca, you used to have Carlos Sanchez at the team, but he's now at my team, the Colombian international. He's now at Watford, and he's like our luxury defender. So there you go.
Is he?
Yeah.
Well, he rarely played for West Ham.
Don't say that.
Well, I mean, I think it was through injury rather than not being good enough. So
no, because he's in the championship. He's just, I mean, he is the rock, is it? And that's it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. I'm pleased for him because obviously I was always a bit biased when he was at West Ham. I wanted him to play, but I mean, I felt like nobody at home who supported West Ham knew who he was, and barely anybody in Colombia knew who he was either. So I was stuck for conversations there.
So tell us a little bit. I mean, coaching up there in, I guess it's Comuna 13 and then the Ecoparque. I think we have to start at the beginning and say, well, okay, Comuna 13, most of us, or Comuna 13, most of us who are familiar with Colombia will know what Comuna 13 is. It's one of the big sort of, do you want to say shanty towns? It's more advanced, I would say, than a shanty town. It's a big catchment area, a more down at heel area of Medellin, but now has become a destination for tours, graffiti tours, rap, hip-hop tours, and now I guess the Ecoparque, where you are volunteering. Tell us a little bit about it all up there.
So yeah, as you know, a lot of people, or basically everybody who comes to Medellin knows about the graffiti tours. It's one of the things to do in Medellin. And our project is an Ecoparque, or Ecoparque in Spanish. And basically, we're in another neighborhood of Comuna 13, basically. And you talk about it developing and how it's become an attraction. And because I see a lot of the other side, unfortunately, that road that you walk up on the graffiti, up the escalators, people are fighting not fighting, but people are battling it out to try and win as much and earn as much along that street. However, a 5-minute walk away where we're based, and they don't benefit from those escalators, that they don't use the escalators as a commuting route because they don't live in that neighborhood, and then they haven't got a shop, or they can't sell street food along the route to the tourists. And so, without trying to say that the whole tourist thing is bad, because it's really good for everybody who does benefit, and the whole area has boosted. There's still a lot of poverty, a lot of people struggling, and so our Ecoparque is part of the tourist project to try and boost tourism even further in Comuna 13. And so we have natural water pools in the mountain. So there's 5 springs up in the mountains that run down into our natural water pools. And so I say ours, I'm still a volunteer, and it's very much the local guys, which is actually why it's so inspiring as well, because the founder of the Ecoparque is also the founder of the foundation and the football school where I volunteer. He used to go and play in these natural water pools when they were just puddles. In Colombia, they call them charcos,
Charcos, yeah.
which is puddles. And he literally had the idea to almost commercialize it or make it more formal and build a real swimming pool with this water rather than just going to play it there with your mates. And well, he tells stories that even just 3 years ago, the land in which the Ecoparque was controlled by the armed groups, and which is one of the major benefits of the whole graffiti and tourist aspect, is that now the locals are taking control back and they're doing things like the Ecoparque, and where on Sundays there's 1,000 people going through the door of the Ecoparque. The locals absolutely love it. And when I see our kids there from the football school or families there making their sancochos, it's you literally can't put a price on how valuable that is in terms of those kids not getting lost or not spending time on the streets with unfavorable people or in unfavorable environments. And obviously I know who these kids are and their living conditions and some of the threats that I know they live by. And so it's really good. The energy there is just amazing. It is huge. And also, I don't know, a lot of people learn in the Comuna 13 tour about the graffiti, about La Scombrera. And so, which is where a lot of missing peoples were buried throughout the war. And it was a dump for the city, and a lot of missing peoples were there. And on one of our tours, we visit the memorial that we have there. So the owners of the land, which is the second biggest finca in Medellin, actually, and they donated a church, and we have a little memorial which we're trying to build up and really recognize as a memorial in Medellin. You know.
I actually wrote a piece several years ago for the Daily Beast about La Escombrera, but just did it all from my desk, like much journalism, but I interviewed the people and so on.
So, sorry, Richard, I lost you there, sorry.
Okay, so a few years ago I did a piece about La Escombrera for the Daily Beast, and I mean, pretty awful stuff. And of course, it was with, was it Operation Orion when they?
Orion, yeah.
But so you go up there, but are you reclaiming the land as an open space, or it's a memorial to what went on? I mean, what is going on up there now? Are they looking to build on it, because it's right there, and I mean on the edge of the city?
Yeah, so, well, the Ecoparque, it's all on private land. So it's a finca. It's owned by a family, and one of the, it's a big family, basically. And it's quite sad that you talk about the memorials, and this family went through a lot of trouble over the past 20 years or so, as you can imagine. And as Comuna 13 is known as a route out of the city, smuggling whatever you may want to smuggle out of the city. This family, the child was kidnapped by narco traffickers, and basically they said, look, if you don't leave the land and flee your finca, God knows what will happen to the child. And so the family now are back there, and the child survived, and they left their finca, which is their hand was dealt, I suppose. And but now it's part of the transformation. And I mean, I'm not a local, I don't know the details, and I don't want to try and claim the details of like who negotiated with who and all of that stuff, but now there's the finca, the house where some members of that family still live. Some of the family members wanted to sell the land. However, James is the founder of the Ecoparque, and I could refer to him a few times, so I will name him. Him and the guys and the partners of the Ecoparque put their case forward to build a tourist attraction, and to provide a space for the community to swim in the natural pools. And now we have a volleyball court there with sand, and we have hammocks to relax, and there's a mini granja, a mini farm. So we have the animals, and and so it's on private land, so you have to pay to get in. So locals, it's 5 mil at the weekends or 3 mil during the week. And so we're still building it up, you know. It is very difficult. We're trying to offer tours as well, which is really where we can make our money and really make the social impact, because part of our profits go towards social projects such as the football school where I volunteer, and delivering mercados, weekly shops, especially with the COVID crisis. And so we have the tours, for example, a horse tour. You can go on a cabalgata, ride the mountains in the horse. Is about 3 hours, and you arrive at an amazing viewpoint of the city up in the mountains. Comuna 13 it looks like it's not on the mountains from when you're up there. It's really amazing, but you can see the whole city. And so that's like 60 mil, and you have to reserve that. So tours like this, we're trying to promote little by little, and ideally we'll be able to offer experience days in Comuna 13. So there's more of the Comuna that can benefit rather than just that street that I mentioned up on the graffiti, where the development and the transformation or economic benefits may be limited.
But as you say, I mean, that street, you know, it is obviously the epicenter and where the benefits, the economic benefits are concentrated. But it sounds like to me, by having taken advantage positively of the Ecoparque and all of this area, then there's a spread, you know, it is filtering out. Obviously not to the degree of that street in Comuna 13, not at all. But by building this and creating these options, as you say, horse riding tours, walking tours, the natural swimming pools, I mean, I think it's you're expanding on the offer here. But there is no risk from armed groups, the gangs up in this area anymore. I mean, you've got it all sewn up.
Yeah, so obviously stuff still goes on in the barrio, but in terms of in the mountains where we are, I mean, you might get a few kids come up to smoke some marijuana, but you're not. It's not vulnerable. You get a lot of cyclists that go and cycle in those mountains. So yeah, it's very safe. I mean, I'm there a lot. You can walk. I mean, we always make sure we've got a local guide with any tourists that come. But you get locals walking up those mountains with their family on Sundays or festivals. So yeah, no, there's no trouble. That's one of the things, you know, Richard. It's how amazing the transformation is, and how the graffiti, the escalators, the rise of the tourism has led to being able to start something like this in another place where just three years ago it was dangerous.
Yeah.
And on one of our walking tours, we go. I mean, this is just a small point of transformation, but it's quite interesting, really. So we visit the memorial gravestone, and we go into the barrio, into the neighborhood, and there's a house painted in green, and apart from the amazing view of the city that you can get from places like this in the Comuna, there's a big story behind this house that looks like a rotten house with loads of rubbish outside. But it's actually now a recycling center for the local people. And if you go back 20 years, it was actually basically a torture house. So it went from I don't know the exact order. The local guides know this knowledge more, but it went from narco traffickers using it as a house. So that torture house sounds bad, but maybe a house was even an illegal activities, prostitution, drugs, assassinations, and then the paramilitaries got involved, and they took over that house, but they used it for the same thing. And then eventually, why it's painted green is because the army then came in and to, I suppose, quote unquote, save or rescue, and then there's stories that the army used it for exactly the same thing. And So it wasn't until locals decided to speak up and to really have transformation from within, which is Comuna 13 in a sentence, really. And now it's a recycling center. I mean, it's not educating the whole barrio on recycling and the most green place in the world, but from what it's come from, it's the steps towards transformation. And now we can bring tourists there. We can and to show this part of the transformation.
When
So
you're
yeah.
when you're in a place like this, the greenhouse, can you feel the weight of history there? Can you feel that events of extreme emotional importance have taken place? Is there like an ambience? A bit philosophical for you, but
Yeah, no, there is. So recently I've been doing tours there with the local guides, assisting, and obviously I know the story. And when we're walking past that memorial and past the church, and we go down into the barrio, and they don't know about this greenhouse and the story, but once the guide starts telling the story of how the house was used for the same thing, I can feel a sense and a change in the ambiance, as you say, of the tourists. I mean, it's almost like they realize, hang on a minute, right? There is a good view. We're in the mountains, and it's great learning these things. But this was real. Like, these people who are walking by us in the barrio now, like, their kids, their parents or their grandparents were living like this. And so you can feel that sort of history. And I think because I've been there and I've done it a lot, I think I feel it from the tourists more, which is, it's new to them. They're not too sure what to expect. It's not the graffiti in Comuna 13. It's something new, but they still see the history. But also, what's really important, and something that we want to make sure that people leave the Ecoparque with, is that was the history, and now there's that. It's a recycling center for the barrio. And as we walk up that mountain, and as we play volleyball in the mountains in the Ecoparque, or as we swim, we're leaving that history behind. You know, that's what these local people are trying to do, and it's an uphill battle, literally. But I mean, sorry, I'll get passionate about it.
as you should.
Because yeah, but it's obviously I always try and make sure that I clarify. Like, I don't do the tours. I'm not a local. I try and help out because I know the kids. I try and, like, I'm trying to work with them on our English program and try and build. Like, ideally, those kids would be able to go in at weekends for free, because we're producing enough revenue, or like enough tourists coming, however you want to put it. At the moment, the kids from the school go once a week for free, but not on weekends. And but they just love it, and it's good to see them up there and doing these tours, and sort of starting with this transformation, or piggybacking and continuing the transformation, is what the locals want to do.
I think it's a rehabilitation of an area that is so, enveloped in a stigma, obviously, for the violence and the illegality that took place. But I think also the importance of open spaces. I mean, when you look at, let's say, a shanty town or an invasion, or these barrios, these comunas, there's no space. Everything, it's all built up, isn't it? It's just breeze block up and breeze block up, and the kids, their open spaces are the streets or rooftops. And so now what you've taken is, you are appropriating, and rightly so. There's a negative connotation to appropriation, but I would say it's an appropriation of the open space for, positive activity. The only concern, and I'm kind of playing devil's advocate here, is that in an extension of the Comuna 13 tours, it's not a poverty safari, though. I mean, you're not doing a misery tour. You are trying to create something positive.
I'm big on that. We've actually, seen, maybe more so when I've just walked through with friends. It's a good tour. I think I've never heard that before. Did you say poverty tour? Poverty tour.
Poverty safari.
Poverty safari. Yeah, no. So we're big on that because, like these kids, I mean, they're real people. It's real life. And the thing about what I'm big on, sort of with these kids who I know personally, is I don't want them to think that the life is the same for everyone, or the life has to continue like that. And there's some kids who can really understand that. And one child, for example, he asked me to borrow my camera, and he comes and takes photos, and he's also learning English, and we're trying to partner the same thing. And if he realizes that he can learn English, learn a bit of photography, speak to people from outside of his barrio, I mean, things can just open your mind so much that that he's not thinking he's in poverty. Like he thinks, I mean, however you want to define poverty, he then goes home to his family and has had a great day and etc. So yeah, I'm big on not highlighting how poor you are to these kids or anything like that. And I think key word would probably be transformation and positive, like you say.
I think so, and opening these children's eyes to opportunity, just little things like the photography. And it makes me think of Jesus Abad Colorado, the photographer who was from the Comuna in Medellin, and who's perhaps one of Colombia's most recognized photographers today for the conflict. And he understands, you understand it's a rehabilitation, it's a reconciliation that takes place that's under this. Do you, I mean, off the cuff here, do you live up there in the Comuna yourself, or are you down a bit?
No, I'm down a bit, okay. Down San Juan Road. There's been times when there's been a room at the Ecoparque available because the founder lives at there's a tree house basically.
You want to live in a tree
house? And well, I mean, the thing is, one of the ways that we're thinking of bringing in revenue or exposing it is to either Airbnb that house, the room, or to do a workaway. I'm not sure if you're familiar with workaway. Have volunteers, somebody could help on the farm or help with some sort of there's lots of little jobs that needs to be done around the park. So that's something that I've sort of got an eye on. There's a lot of moving parts. I think, I mean, before we can do that without lots and lots of work to just try and convince somebody to come and stay there, we need to become a bit more established as a thing to do in Comuna 13. When you think of graffiti, maybe you can think of the horse ride or think of the natural pools and chill out in the mountains as well. I mean, it's a long journey, to be honest, because I mean, I know how tough. I try to convince people a lot. I try to explain that I'm there in the evenings a lot in the week, and it's safe and it's private land. And but one thing is that when people come there, nobody's ever known what to expect when they visited, and whether it's with a big group or whether it was just my friends who I brought along, they've always been really surprised, and they've always loved it, and they love the energy. If they go for a swim, you can feel the freshness of the water. We were there before Christmas and with a few friends, and we ended up doing a Colombian versus extranjeros against foreigners little volleyball match, and of course all the kids were there, and the energy is great, and I mean you feel like you're a million miles away from the city. You really do.
And that's the important part, isn't it? That transportation. How many kids do you have then in your football school?
So in the football school at full capacity, we'll be talking about 100 boys and 50 girls.
Wow.
And that we don't always get that, and unfortunately, the main reason is because they can't afford the subscription fees. So the moment they pay £3 a month, which is the fees to cover to rent out the pitch and to pay the coaches who organise a lot of stuff and they're every week. And then obviously we lose some to the streets, I suppose, or to other activities, which is sad. But our football school very much a place to facilitate and give an opportunity for those who are most struggling. A lot of our kids would rotate with their siblings 1 month or a couple months, and then so you don't see a kid for a couple of months because his brother's at football, and so that the parents can't afford to pay for them both. It's really tough because we try and produce a bit of discipline and have a community feel to say that between parents, between kids, if you don't pay, you can't play. It's a simple sort of almost rule of life. However, if those kids are getting turned away at the gate of the football pitch, often they're not going home. They're on the street. So it's a thin line, and what we're still working on, to be honest, with the local guys to make sure that it's the discipline and not a rejection almost.
Can listeners or other people donate for this? Do you have a donation page?
So yes, well, I have a GoFundMe page which I set up, which actually was raising money for food in during the pandemic, when a lot of our families were really struggling, and so I suppose we'll put that in the link in the bio, will we?
Yeah, so, definitely. I mean, how you mentioned the pandemic? Obviously, I guess numbers dropped to the Ecoparques and stuff with all of the, and Medellin's, experiencing quite a phenomenal lockdown, I think, at the moment, and it's been very affected. How has Comuna 13 been affected by the pandemic?
Well, in terms of tourism,
zero.
It left zero, and so that it probably impacted those people on a greater scale. Maybe they're not going as hungry as other people, but in terms of the reduction, and in terms of it hit it hard, to be honest, mate. Like we, as a corporation, Corporación Pacifistas, and we worked with a lot of local people to deliver like 9,000 weekly shops within the community. I was up there a few times trying to deliver these, and it was tough. There's lots of red flags for hunger. I don't know if you saw that on the news. There was a lot of people flying red flags, and we actually got a lot of donations from like companies like Exito Foundation, but we didn't receive any. From what I know, I don't mean to speculate here, but we didn't receive any from like state help from the government, which was promised and which obviously you can't really rely on. But it was it was tough. The James, the guy, he's a real social hero, really social leader, and he at the Ecoparque where there is the tree house, he actually, because we couldn't accept tourists and basically the Ecoparque project was put on hold for all of that time, he knew that people were out on the streets. So there was one family, and the boy is a dwarf, and he has an electric chair, just to help get around, because when he walks, his bum is on the floor. I don't want to try and sensationalize this or anything, but his mum and dad lost their work in the pandemic, so they pawned his chair to get money to eat, basically. And James, type of guy he is, he did a lot for this family. Actually, he took them in at the Ecoparque, and basically they worked around at the Ecoparque, and in exchange for roof and some food. And I mean, that hit James a lot, because James has a job, but he wasn't getting any income from the Ecoparque at this point, with no tourists, and so it was tough. And since then, we managed to raise some money to get the chair back, which was great for the kid. And the owners of the land actually donated a lot, a lote, in order for them to build their house, like to have their own space, and to give them a bit of a foundation in terms of going out to, like the dad can go out and look for a job and get some work to help build the house.
One story amongst many, I would assume. And how are the infection or contagion rates as well in the Comuna 13? Do you have any idea?
No, I'm not too familiar on that, to be honest. It's not really. I mean, a lot of when like maybe last June, July, when it was full lockdown, there was a lot of families getting infected that I knew about. But I don't know any details in terms of like numbers, and I don't even know Colombia's details, which are more public than Comuna 13. I try not to watch negative news or.
Yeah. Well, I hate to sell it. It's not good. That's all you could use. It's not good. But I think there's something here, and there's something, sort of below what we've been discussing. We've talked a lot about this, and I've watched the videos because you've got stuff on YouTube and about the Ecoparque and possibilities for local people. And as you say, it's 5,000 to go in on a weekend and 3,000 to go in on a weekday. To you and I, this is pittance. To a local person, it's money. But there was one lady on one of the videos discussing, it's like how, they all say how much they love going to the pools up there, the natural pools, and spending time up there. But the one lady does, she does express the fact that they've got to go now and enjoy it now before they can no longer go, because probably prices will increase or will gentrify or something else. Is this a real concern? Are you guys working towards trying to keep it local?
Yes, 100%. Which is actually, especially when I'm trying to advertise it, walking around Poblado in the hostels, getting tourists or something, a big thing is that it is local, and that we want it to become a tourist attraction, but we want the space to be there for local people. We don't want them to be outpriced. We don't want them to turn their eye because, I don't know, tourists are getting priority on the volleyball, to rent a volleyball or something like that. 100%. Because at the end of the day, the founder and the partners and everyone involved, we know, like you say, 5 mil for a tourist, especially if you're actually on holiday and you're cash rich because you've saved up the money and you're paying and you feel like it's really cheap in Colombia, and so you're tipping left, right, and center or whatever it may be. We can charge more to those people, and because we know that it's local people benefiting as a business and through the social projects that we then support, we can do that in peace. And a big thing is to make sure it stays local as well. In response to that video, I'm not sure what that video was, but what it may be is because we got a lot of criticism. Some of the news channels that you may have seen was because of La Escombrera and the mass graveyard that is there. And so one thing that we had some negative news. It was almost like, oh my God, we're going to be finished before we're done if lawyers get involved and say that we have to take it down. However, it hasn't got to that, because the way we see it is it's actually a bit of a platform for us to be like, look, this is what we're doing because of that history. This is what we want to create, these spaces for the local people. We want to show how beautiful Comuna 13 is because you're in the mountains away from the city. And also, to be clear, it's actually not on the mass grave. The land where the pools are isn't on the mass grave. We are to the side of it, and on tours we go and learn. We walk on that man-made mountain and visit the memorial, which is another thing that we want to try and build and develop. So it's very much we're on the same side as any protesters or any human rights activists who want to continue looking who want to commemorate those missing people, you know. And James, the main guy, he's a human rights activist. He's fought hard to try and make sure that they continue looking, and to make sure that there is a memorial and we continue to commemorate, you know. So maybe the lady on your video that you mentioned was a bit saying, oh well, if they take it down because they're looking for bodies or something, or because of the news.
No, maybe it was that more than the gentrification, maybe. But you're not. I mean, it's very clear you're not trying to, cover up what happened there. You're not trying to hide it. I think that's the important thing. And I think the important. There will be a certain gentrification. It will happen. There will be a certain degree of, I think, displacement of people. It happens in cities. I mean, but if the traditional community can remain and there is compassionate growth and a compassionate economy towards the reality that's there, then it's all positive. It's all positive in this respect, and I think what you're doing is quite incredible, and that you spent so long up there. What is your future plan, Damon? Is this it? I mean, this is it. You're football coaching for life up in the Comuna.
What a question. Well, to be fair, I'm not coaching all weeks now at the moment. So, like, if I'm working on, I mean, I work as well, so it's not. This is all my free time, so it does can be tiring, and luckily, the other coaches are more consistent, and they get paid to cover me sometimes. But I mean, it is me. Yeah, I'm here now. I love it. I just love it. There's a big future. I look at the kids who I know more than like the whole community. Like the child who's learning English and doing the photography, for example. He talks about going to the UK to study, and so he wants to work for NASA. That's the type of kid he is.
And why not?
He's a real star. But that sort of, I mean, I don't think that's impossible. Who knows? Mm-hmm. He's got a few years to study. He doesn't have to go to university or whatever at 18. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have to go to university. And if he wants to come back to Comuna 13, he can do that. It's just, I'm big on sort of trying to help someone along the way with an opportunity or to open their eyes. I mean, the dream would be to go to the UK, go to London for a football tour with 150 kids from Comuna 13, and
why not?
Why not? Yeah, so why not? I'm actually talking to West Ham. Sorry to interrupt.
No, go for it.
I'm talking to West Ham. I mean, I know you mentioned them. I couldn't claim that I was an ex-player, but we're talking to West Ham to try and get some sort of program up in the Comuna, which would like a mass participation program where their coaches would come and train our coaches on various things. So I mean, if we could get that, and that could produce a bit of a long-term project, we can help produce more jobs, create more jobs, and get more kids playing sports and not on the street.
So you're essentially evolving into a potential scout for West Ham. Are there any future stars in your teams?
There's a few good players, but I don't think I'm potentially a scout.
all right.
No, but there's a couple of good players. We lost a couple to a few better teams around Medellin, which is great. There is a sense of you need to play football to try and become a professional. For example, in those types of areas, such as Comuna 13, where maybe that may be the only healthy path. And I think they don't need any more help with believing that. And so I can help with opening eyes to something else. Maybe it's just getting more people involved to play for fun, or to learn English, or who knows. I mean, I arrived full time in Colombia in January 2020. Moved back for good, and since then so much has happened and changed, and I've learned so much. So I mean, who knows what another year can hold. And
definitely.
So,
well, we have to wind this down, but I say thank you for your time and immensely generous time that you spend up there in the Comuna 13, helping. And how can the listeners of the podcast help you help the Ecoparque? Is there some way online, because obviously at the moment no one can visit anywhere, and I would say in the future when things return to some semblance of normal, obviously they can take the tours up there and so on else, but what can they do from their homes and their offices to help you?
hold on, let me get the list out.
Well, just give us some links.
So first of all, follow us on Instagram and Facebook. It's at Ecoparque 13. So that's ECOPARQUE 13. And that should just show up when you search for it. But yeah, the park is open. So even if we're open 4 days and closed for the weekends here in Medellin, if you're here in Medellin, if you want to go for a horse tour, contact us on social media. If you want to come visit, contact us on social media. That's the best place. You can check us out. The videos, the photos. It's really beautiful, and I mean that is the best way, to be honest, to get people going, and then tell a friend or tell a friend and bring a friend, and because at the moment I'm telling all my friends and it's tough. So but hopefully the word can spread little by little, and we can improve our service and give everybody what they need and what they want, locals and tourists.
Excellent. Well, listen, Damon O'Neill, thank you so much for telling us all about this, and you really have shown your love and affection for the area, because it's not just anyone who would stay or come back and just really dedicate all of their spare time to this. I mean, it's quite incredible. So I think you should be, immensely proud. I think you're quite a humble person, because again, you were on trials for West Ham and Tottenham, and you're not bigging it up at all, and I think it's incredible, and we need more people to dedicate some time, a bit more altruistic, a bit more open to new experiences. So thank you again for all that you've shared with us, and I promise, if I get to Medellin at some point in the future, I will come and check out the
Ecoparque. I was going to say,
right.
come and I don't know if you like horse tours. We'll go ride the horses in the mountains.
I think I'd sooner swim in the natural pools. but anyway, so we've been talking to Damon O'Neill, a volunteer at the Ecoparque in Comuna 13. Thank you all so much for listening. This has been episode 372. Obviously, all of the links to the Ecoparque 13 will be found on our Facebook page and Twitter and so on. Tune in next week. We'll be talking to another person about something Colombia related. But this has been a really great show. Thank you again, and bye-bye.